full-hearted welcome to Vivoterra here and now. Be careful with the glycemic index. The glycemic index, GI, is a measure for determining the effect of a carbohydrate-containing food on the blood sugar level. Sometimes the term Glyx is used for this. The higher the value, the more sugar there is in the blood. How quickly and how high the blood sugar level rises after consuming a food is measured using a certain parameter. The glycemic index or the glycemic load, GL or GI. Carbohydrates are considered to be worse and less healthy the higher their glycemic index or their glycemic load. The glycemic index rates foods from 0 to 100. The value shows how quickly a food is converted into blood sugar and thereby increases the insulin level. Pure glucose has the highest GI or glycemic index of 100. White bread, for example, is 70 to 85, so it's close to pure glucose or sugar. And chocolate and Coke are 70. Whilst whole grain products have a GI very low of 40. Legumes and most fruits and vegetables are even lower. Since a low GI causes blood sugar levels to rise slowly, foods made from whole grains, legumes and fruits and vegetables hardly put any strain on the pancreas. In general, a food with a GI over 50 is to be regarded as worse than food under 50. You can see from these examples that the consumption of sugar and carbohydrates has very different effects of the blood sugar level. And you can also see that the sugar from healthy foods only causes slight fluctuations in blood sugar and thus serves to generate energy without harming health or harming our pancreas. Because natural sugar in fruits or grains is always present there in a natural combination with many different and accompanying substances, including vitamins, minerals and fiber. Isolated and refined forms of sugar, on the other hand, consist almost exclusively of sugar. Table sugar made from sucrose, grape, sugar made from glucose, fruit sugar made from fructose, etc. These sugars no longer contain accompanying substances. They were removed during production so that only almost 100% pure sugar forms are created. A similar parameter is the insulin index, which indicates the insulin level instead of the blood sugar level. The term glycemic index was introduced in the 1980s as part of diabetes research. It was found that white bread, for example, causes blood sugar to rise more sharply than household sugar after consumption. The difference could not be explained by the structure of the carbohydrates, for example, complex or small molecule. There are now several diets that attach importance to the GI, the glycemic index. For example, the Montignac method, the Glyx diet, and the Logi method. More recent research results have shown, however, that the glycemic index, for example, only plays a subordinate role in weight gain and is individual, very variable because it depends on the intestinal flora, among other things. So be careful with the glycemic index. Don't just blindly take over. Otherwise, we come to the point fructose does not have a high glycemic index, so we can eat as much of it as we want. So to speak, everything that has a low GI is healthy, so put in there. That is of course wrong. Why fructose is disappearing under the radar? There are a number of reasons why the problematic effects of fructose are only being scrutinized today. For one thing, fructose comes from fruit, and we all know that fruit is so healthy. That may be true if you enjoy it if you enjoy it in bulk, but some berries. Yeah? I'm not talking about high sugar or tropical fruits here. The second reason is a little more complicated. Carbohydrates are often divided into simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates according to their chemical structure. Simple carbohydrates are molecules with 1 or 2 sugar molecules, like fructose and glucose. Complex carbohydrates can consist of chains with several thousand sugar molecules, and not only 1 or 2. Our body therefore takes longer to break them down. This is very healthy. They are found in vegetables and legumes like beans and lentils, and are far better from a nutritional point of view. In the early 1980s, the glycemic index, also known as Glyx or GI, was developed so that we could better understand how quickly different carbohydrates can be digested and converted into blood sugar, which our cells then use to generate energy. The index works like a food rating. Foods can be quickly converted into blood sugar and cause highly insulin secretions and have a high GI on a scale from 1 to 100. White bread has a value of, as mentioned before, 85. White rice 89, and instant oatmeal 83. These are recommended types of foods to avoid. Remember, a surge in insulin levels keeps the fat into cells. So these foods that indirectly make you fat. Foods that are more slowly converted to blood sugar and therefore in theory are less rude about our metabolism have a lower GI, glycemic index. For example, chickpeas 10, apples 39, and ice cream 36. Ice cream 36. Now it's going to be interesting, yeah? Yes, ice cream. It should be noted that the presence of fat or protein, like proteins in a food, lowers the GA value. Since fat does not have an immediate effect on blood sugar levels, fatty foods have a lower index value. Based on this system, carbohydrates have been divided into good and bad, and many nutrition and health experts have adopted this method. Oddly enough, sugary foods have a relatively low GI. Granulated sugar has a lower GI Glyx or GI value than potatoes or white bread. The GI of ice cream is 36 and that of peas is 51. And this is strange. So do you want to tell us that ice cream is a better choice than rice with vegetables? For example, white bread GI is 85, white rice GI is 89, chickpeas GI is 10, and fructose GI is 19. According to the GI, fructose would be better than rice if we were follow the GI. The reason for this is fructose. Fructose has a GI of around 19, which is very low for fructose. In fact, conventional medicine recommended fructose for a while, especially for diabetics. Yeah, we know that very little fructose ends up in the bloodstream, but is absorbed by the liver and converted into fat. In the case of granulated sugar or glucose, fructose syrup, corn syrup. And the Glyx, or the GI index, is low because the fructose does not cause a rise in blood sugar levels, but instead is wreaking havoc elsewhere. The fructose is destroying your liver. The fructose is not in the blood, but ends up in the liver immediately. This connection was suppressed for decades by the sugar industry. Now the strongest advocates of fructose come on the scene, must confess their understanding. Although certain foods have a high GI, they are very low in pure glucose. For example, malts such as rice malt and barley malt around 5%, which is very, very good. When consumed in normal amounts, they have negligible effect on glycemia. Important to know, there is practically no difference between the GI of whole milk products and milk products with a fat content of 0%. However, one should know that dairy products have a high insulin index despite having a low GI. So be careful with the glycemic index. All the best, remain in peace until the next Here and Now.
In 𝐕𝐢𝐯�0, the laws of nature and the order in the universe. This book, with more than 900 pages, is a real treasure trove of knowledge, the gate to the universe. If you also want to fully understand this natural order, then give yourself and your loved ones this treasure trove filled with unique natural knowledge, and buy this book now directly from the Vivoterra shop.